It's been about 70 years since we've had the level of geopolitical risk or threat in Europe that we've experienced recently. We set out to create a Pareto optimal solution to the problem, one in which nothing could be traded off without greater cost to somebody else. That if we look to test the circumstance, if a system is going to be secure and reliable, it's going to be cheap and it's going to be decarbonised, and then I introduce a geopolitical energy shock with the invasion of Ukraine by the Russians, having utterly upturned the entire energy sector, we've seen a threat to the reliability and security of energy. So now what we find is a condition in which governments, regulators, industry, economies more broadly, and consumers want to know their energy supplies are going to be reliable and secure. So we designed ourselves specifically to be as secure and as reliable as possible. So if you can increase the security of the electricity system and its ability to be, an economy's ability to be able to provide for its consumers from renewable energy in its own domain, by definition, it's going to be a lot more energy independent and secure than if it's relying on natural gas from a neighbour, oil from a neighbour, oil from some foreign supply in a distant location, in which I am now vulnerable to shipping. So if we can increase energy independence by having domestic supply of wind and solar energy to meet most of our demands, if our electricity system is capable of meeting consumers' demands, we will significantly increase reliability and security of energy in a geopolitical context which is increasingly uncertain. Energy represents about 20% of total economic activity. So while we've experienced in the last couple of years post-COVID and post the Russian invasion of Ukraine a significant increase in energy costs and energy bills directly for consumers, we've also observed as consumers a really significant increase in the cost of everything. So energy is directly a cost to households, energy is an input to every other item that we purchase. So if you significantly increase the cost of energy, you significantly increase the cost of living for everybody. So if we're interested and concerned about equity in society, if we're concerned about the well-being of the most marginal in society, the last thing we should want to see is an increase in the cost of energy as an input, because it affects the most marginal to the greatest extent. So there are two things happening then. We're inflating away our asset value as a consequence of increasing energy costs and our reliance on expensive foreign inputs to that process, and simultaneously we're actually reducing the equity in society itself. That impact, it impacts directly on the ballot box, and therefore the propensity of communities to support environmental issues goes down. We have to be able to afford to be clean. And if what we do is we inflate away our welfare by increasing energy costs, we will have a much reduced capacity to deal with environmental issues like climate change. So all around the world today, as we speak, consumers are finding it more and more difficult to make that trade-off. Politicians on a national basis are faced with difficult decisions that will impact on the cost of energy to consumers. If I'm going to significantly increase the cost of energy to consumers through my policy decisions, I'm going to reduce my electability as a government, and I'm going to reduce my capacity as a government to actually make a contribution to decarbonisation itself. So it is simply unacceptable for us to proceed without solving the energy trilemma of reliability, affordability, and decarbonisation.